Let's pick up the next mitzvah. Mitzvah lamed alpha. Mitzvah achas u'shloshim. Hi shetzivonu לשלוח הטמאים מן המקדש. לשלוח הטמאים מן המקדש. ועמו יסעלה וישלחו מן המחנה כל צור וכל זור וכל טומא לנפש. הצור, הזב, מצורו, הזב, and a tummy lenefesh. I guess it's a tummy mace. V'zeh hamachne hane'amar hine hu machne shchina. That's very clear. We're talking about machne shchina. Okay. Shedoime loy l'deirais hoazoro. Mo shibialnu betchilas seder taharos befirish hamishna. It's interesting that it's clear here again that the Sefer HaMitzvos was basically written post Pirush Mishnayos, and even though in one place, I think in Hun, he quotes the Sefer HaMitzvos. Those that claim that are aware of the Kisvei Yad and Rambam, that it basically is Madura Bas created it later. V'loshen Sifri v'shalchu min hamachne azho l'tmeim shlo yikonsu b'tuma. Back to that. ופעניך פה זה הציווי בלושן אחר, והוא אמרוי וחייה בכו איש אשר לא יהיה תור, מקרי לילה ויוצא מן המחנה, רויצה גם כן חוץ ממחנה, חוץ למחנה, מחנה שכינה. או שניהם במצווה זו לעצמו, אל תוך מחוץ למחנה תשלחו. כמו פסוחים, אל מחוץ למחנה זו מחנה שכינה. ולושן מחילתא, which is ספריזותא, צוות בני ישראל וישלחו מן המחנה בעשה, ומנין בלא יעשה תעמלו ולא תתעמו את מחנה. בספרי, ויוצא אל מחוץ למחנה, Mitzvas. Okay. So Mitzvas, and the Mitzvas is very clearly from Machne Shechina. So he goes over and over and over again. Okay? Now, let's start slowly. There are two parshas in the Torah about Shiluach Machnes. One parsha is in Parshas Nosai, Bamidbar Parshas Nosai. Sav es Bnei Yisrael, Vishalchu, it's in Bamidbar Hey, Pasuk Beis and Gimel. Sav es Bnei Yisrael, Vishalchu min HaMachne, Kol Tzruah v'Chol Zov, v'Chol Tomei LaNefesh. Mizoch v'Adekei v'Tishalchu, El Michutz LaMachne, Tishalchu, v'Yitamu es Machneim, Asher Ani Shochin B'Seichel. That's in Nosai. And then in Kiseitze, the volume Chov Gimel, Yud Tiyud Gimel, Kiseitze Machne Alo Yevecho, V'Nishmat Mikol Dovaro, Ki Yeh B'Cho Ish Asher Lo Yeh Tor Mikrei Loilo, V'Yotze Michutz LaMachne L'Yover Tech HaMachne. ויוצא מחוץ למחנה ליובו תוך המחנה. ואוי לפנוס ערב, ואוכי יחץ בסוף במים, וכבוא השמש, יובוי אל תוך המחנה. So, let's just understand this and what these parshas mean, just keep in mind, point number one, there's one mitzvah aseh and two mitzvahs aseh. The mitzvah aseh is this mitzvah in parshas Nosai, and I guess repeat it again in parshas Kisei, and the two loisaseh. One loisaseh is in Nosai, and another loisaseh is in Kisei. And that minyan mitzvahs is loisaseh, ayin zayin, and ayin ches. So again, there's one aseh and two loisaseh. The aseh is vishalch min hamachne, is we don't differentiate at all min ha-tmאים. He doesn't have a discussion at all about tmאים. He just quotes the pasuk of Surah v'zav in Tomei Nefesh, and he says the machne we're talking about is machne Shechina. And that's what he writes here. Shetzivonu l'shloach ha-tmeim min ha-mikdash. V'om yisal v'shoch min ha-machne, kol tzur v'chol zor v'chol tomei nefesh. And also Mishnah Torah, Hilchos Beis ha-mikdash. Per Gimel aloch Aleph. He shetzivonu l'shloach ha-tmeim min ha-mikdash. V'om yisal v'shalchu min ha-machne, kol tzur v'chol zor v'chol tomei nefesh. וזה המחנה נאמר, הנה הוא מחנה שכינה. So it's very clear, we're talking about מחנה שכינה again and again over here, and also Mishnah Torah. Okay. Here, now let's do the next step. Here, in Minyan Mitzvahs, the whole discussion is where to send them from, not where to send them to, okay? And all he says is all three Tmeim are the same, that all three Tmeim that happen to be in Machne Shechina are sent out to Machne, outside Machne Shechina. No discussion of where they're sent to. However, in Mishnah Torah, and it's also like that in the Gemara Psochim Samar Zayin Amar Aleph, Dram bis Mikdash per Gimel Locha Beis and Gimel, Ze Machna Mokan Hu Machne Shechina, שהוא מפסח הזוהר as Yisrael לפנים. שומע אני שהמצורע והזהב v'tomei meis shloshtam b'mokom echad. So now he goes on that they're sent to the same place. Tamaloima b'mitzora bodad Yosef michutz lamachne moishava ze machne Yisrael shehu mipesach Yerushalayim lifnim. Ma mitzora shetumosai chamura chom shiluchai mishiluch haveiroi. Of course, shetumosai chamura chom shiluchai mishiluch haveiroi. Lefikoch meshachas mitzora chutz legimel machnes shehu chutz Yerushalayim minei shehu metame bebiyah. Mashen kena the zav metame, and the zav is harabayis, and Tomei Meis is the Azor. So the dinim showing him of where you send the Tomei to. So the mitzvah was only said in the Azor and not in Harabayis and Yerushalayim. And the Rambam doesn't discuss the various places here in Minyan Mitzvahs. So this is not one of our difficult questions. It's basically a more rhetorical question, I would assume. The mitzvah is discussed here in Minyan HaMitzvos of where he should send from. In Mishnah Torah, he goes on and explains not only where he should be sent from, but where he should be sent to. The kitzur is no mitzvah say of a zav who happens to be in Har HaBayis, okay, because he's not in the Azorah. But a zav who is in the Azorah, you have to send him out of Har HaBayis. And a mitzvah who is in the Azorah, you have to send him out of Yerushalayim. The key mitzvah is to shaleach him outside the machne that he's mutaboy, that he's asaboy. So the Tomei, you send him outside of the Azorah. The Zav, you send him outside the Har HaBayis. And the Mitzvah, you send him outside of Yerushalayim. But if the Mitzvah is in Har HaBayis in Yerushalayim, or the Zav in Har HaBayis, there's no Mitzvah say. The Mitzvah say starts in the Azorah, but the question is where you should send him. And that's part of the din shiluch. It's chom and the shlucha. Of course, it's mos chamua. Chom shilucha mishluch haveiroi. Or that the shiluach is a different shiluach, but the shluach in all the tmeim start in the azorah. But it's only because of nichlas azorah. And again, the zav and the mitzvah in Har HaBayis or the mitzvah in Yerushalayim, there's no, he violates a law, we'll see about it, but there's no mitzvah shiluach. The mitzvah shiluach is from the Azorah, but each tameh is choma shiluchay mechavere. However, in Minyan HaMitzvos, there's no discussion at all of where they're sent. And the answer is very simple. Because where the mitzvah, that the mitzvah is in Azorah, that's what the mitzvah is, to send from the Azorah. But where you send each tameh is protei mitzvahs, and the makom from the protei mitzvahs is in general in Mishnah Torah. So Ram Mishnah Torah discusses barichos where each tameh is sent, and it's part of the mitzvah, but the mitzvah starts in the Azorah, and that's the mitzvah, and that's what he discusses here in Minyan HaMitzvos. That, I think, is okay. Now, there are two lavim. One in Bamidbo and Osoi, v'lo yitamu es machaneim asher ani shoichin b'soichom. The other one in Kiseitze, in the volume, that was the other one was Bamidbo Hey Gimel, of Lo Yitamu Es Machaneim Asher Ani Shoichin B'Soichom, and in the volume Chav Gimel, in Kiseitze, Chav Gimel Yud Aleph, Lo Yoboi El Toich Amachane. So in Minyan HaKotzer, in Lois Ayin Zayin, it says, Shlo yikones tomei la'azorah, shlo yitambos machneim. That's in Nosoi. Ze machne shchina. Lois aseh ayin ches, shlo yikones tomei lemachne leviyah. Shekeneg l'deus ha'abayis, shneim lo yovo teich ha'machne. This is the pasuk Kiseitze, and ze machne leviyah. Says a lav in machne shchina, a lav in machne leviyah, but the Aseh is only in Azorah, in machne shchina. Now, Again, the Aseh is definitely a Machne Shechina. There's a Lav also Machne Shechina. And in Machne Leviyah, there's only a Lav and no Aseh. That's what we have. Okay, next. Mistaber that since the Aseh in Parshas Nosai is talking about Machne Shechina, so you'd assume the Lois Aseh is on the same thing. In the Lav in Parshas Kiseitze is Machne Levi. And it's a B'zav in Harabayis. Now, let's start slowly. The Rambam doesn't mention Malchus over here because it's the Aseh. And in the Lavim of Ayin Zayin Ayin Ches, he also doesn't mention Malchus. In Bias Mikdash, he mentions Malchus by the Lav of Knisa Laharabayis, but he doesn't mention Malchus by the Lav of Knisa Lazor. However, there is Malchus even for the Lav of Knisa Lazor. How do I know that? From the Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin. The Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Perek Yutes, Halacha Aleph, Ois Tezayin, where he mentions the Lavim that there's Malchus and Kores. And a Lav of Malchus of Kores is a Knisas Tomei Lazora. That is, so there's Malchus. And the Lav of Knisas Tomei Laharabayis, he mentions in the Lav She'ein Kores, that's in Perek Yutes, Halacha Dalid, Ois Chav Beis, and there's a Lav of Knisas Tomei, Zav, whoever, Uchedoime, Laharabayis. So there's both Malchus for the Lav of Knisa Lazor and Knisa Laharabayis. However, one can ask the following question. Why is there Malchus for Knisas Tomei Lazor? It's the Chalav Shekodmo Aseh. Lav Shekodmo Aseh. There's an Aseh which was said prior to the Lav, and a Lav Shekodmo Aseh. It says Zocho Mizocha ve'adikeve teshalchu el michutz lamachne teshalchem v'lo yitamu es machneim. It's an aseh lav shekodmo aseh. And the Rambam paskins in Hilchos Naira Psula, Perek Aleph Halacha Zayin, af al pi shenema bi'oines lo yuchal shalcho. There's a Lav. Kiva shekodmo aseh. That's a reason why there's no Malchus. Kiva shekodmo aseh. Shenema v'lo yisiel liisha hare nitku la'aseh v'nimses zo mitzvas loisas sheshenitku la'aseh she'ein loikan alor. This the Gemara Makis talks about in Tesmov and Aleph. The Rambam Paschal's Lav Shekodmo Aseh is not like it. So the boy showed the Lav of Tumas Machne Shechina is Kodmo Aseh. So it should be Lav Anita Aseh. And there should be no Malchus. So how does the Rambam Paschal's that there is Malchus? You see, you're not going to ask this question. We'll see. We're not going to ask this question about Harabayis, because in Harabayis, there's only a lav, not an aseh. But in Yushalayim, in the Azorah, where there's a lav and an aseh, and the aseh is it's a lav shekodmo aseh, it should have a din of lav and din of aseh. It should be no malchus. The Rambam passes very clearly there is malchus. So let's just say the Rishonim discuss this issue. Baruka. I'll give you some ma'amakomis, and I want to suggest another answer. The Kedusha Ramban, Makis, Tezvav and Aleph, Tivya Masru Gemara, Hochigasinon, Kedusha Litvo, Makis there, Tezvav and Aleph, Tivya Masru Ksiva Betanina. Each one of them quote various Rishonim, and there are many truths into this question. Okay, you say that. So I just like to suggest another teretz, which is meduyik in the Rambam. Lav shenitil is only if the lav is on person X, and the aseh is also on person X. There's chemo, bitla. But lu yitzur, the lav and the aseh would be on a different group. You don't say lav and nitil aseh. So let's just see here. The Mitzvah Mitzvah Kotzer, first of all, the Lashon HaKor, Tishalchu. What does Tishalchu mean? It means to send him out. It's going on the tzibur, or it's going on the Tomei. It's going on the tzibur. So the suggestion is that the aseh is going on the tzibur, and the lav is going individual. So there's no lav and nitil aseh. In the Minyana Mitzvah Kotzer, aseh lamed aleph, the Poter Mitzvah Bias HaMikdash Oizvov Hilchos Bias HaMikdash Perek Gimel Halacha Aleph. It's all very clear that the aseh is other people send him out. And the emes is, you see it in the pasuk, because the pasuk is clearly on the tzibur and not on the individual. It says mizocha litmatzi. It's not only the pasuk tishalchu. Let's see the next pasuk, which would be more interesting. Mizocha pasuk gimel, mizocha ve'adnikeva tishalchu. El michutz lamachane tishalchum v'lo yitamu es machaneim asher ani shoichein b'seichom vayasu kein b'nei Yisrael v'yishalchu isam min hamachne el michutz lamachane kasher tzivo Hashem el Moshe kasher divo Hashem el Moshe kein also b'nei Yisrael vayasu b'nei Yisrael. So what does it mean? The mitzvah is on Bnei Yisrael to send them outside of the machna. It's very clear. So that's the way you should interpret it. It's not only tishalchu, but the next pasuk is very mefurish. However, when it comes to the lav, it's talking about the Tomei himself. And the Protei Mitzvahs in Bias HaMikdash Zayin Shlo Yikonsu. but it's talking about the Tmeim. Hilchos Bias HaMikdash. Im nichnesu oivrim. L'shloach Tmeim in HaMikdash and Protei Mitzvas. L'shloach Tmeim in HaMikdash. Shlo yikones Tomei LeMikdash. Shlo yikones Tomei LeMikdash. Now, so if that's the case, so one would say that the Aseh, the lav is the Aseh is on the tzibur, and the lav is on the tomei. So there's no lav in the Aseh. And that'll be beautiful. The problem is just the lashon over here, in one place over here. V'lashon sifri v'yishalchu min hamachne azhora l'tmeim shelo yikonsu l'mikdash betumo. V'yishalchu min hamachne azhora l'tmeim shelo yikonsu l'mikdash betumo. It's going on the Aseh. So the word Ashora, here it's Mitzvah, it's a tzivui. And l'chor Chazal, l'fomim, even though it's a Mitzvah, have a Lashon of Ashora. But whatever it is, the Lashon of the Sifri is mashma that goes on the Tmeim themselves. Okay. Not only that, I'm just going to tell you this is just for your own edification. I mentioned the Gemara Makis for a reason. Yes. And you see, there's a problem here. And I don't just, whatever it is, that's what it is. Yeah. Moshe. No. It's here. No. What happened? 1 second. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I said it should be here. Mine from Biocha, 1 second. No, I'm sorry, just doesn't take me 1 second. No. All right. The Gemara, you'll find it, I'm sorry. Was right here. And no. One more second. No. All right. Here it is. It starts in Yud Dalet Amud Beis. Omer Rabo Bavachon Omer B'Yechanon Kol Loises Shekod Masei Loikan Alo. He says the opposite. In Loises Shekod Masei, we don't say Lav until Lasei. Omulo Amrit Omulahu Lo Omer Rabo Elokim Omer. There's a shmur that he said it. Uksiva v'tanina. Listen to the ksiva tanina. Uksiva tanina v'yishalchu min hamachne v'goyme v'lo yitamu es machneim. And this is the classical case. The case in Nosoi is the classical case of lav hanitek lasei, where the lav is kodmo aseh. And the way I'm saying now, this doesn't make any sense. But the Lashon Rambam is clearly mashma like this. So you have to understand what's going on over here. The Rambam clearly says that the Aseh is on the tzibur. So the Chayy doesn't do. So I'm just leaving. The problem is a problem. Whatever it is, he gets malchus. Next. You can ask another question. One would have said from the parsha in Kiseitze that the lav of Parshas Kiseitze is also a lav shekod maseh. Because it says, V'yotzo el michutz lamachne, Lo yovoy el mitoich hamachne. So the yotzo el michutz hamachne is also an aseh, as the Ram clearly says here in this mitzvah. He says v'yotzo is a kefel of this aseh. וכבר נכפל זה הציווי בלושן איחר, והוא אמרי וכי יהיה וכל איש אשר לא יהיה טהור מקרא לו ויוצא אל מחוץ למחנה. So l'cheira, the teretz is poshut, because the lav is a machna levia, and the aseh is a machna shchina, and it's a capable of this aseh. So it has nothing to do with the aseh, with the lav, which was formulated in machna levia. But it's the same lav, but it's said in a different fashion. Okay. But here, there's another problem. Since this, you see, this creates a problem. I'm just sure exactly how you play this out. It's a very interesting question, because the Rambam is the kefil, okay? But the aseh over here is different than the aseh in Nosod, the aseh in Kiseitze, because the aseh in Nosod is v'shalchu min hamachna, it's going on the tzibur. But the aseh of Kiseitze, v'yotzo, is going on the Tomei himself. So since this is a kefil of the aseh to leave machna shchina, so but here there's an aseh in the person himself. So the question is how valid, but the Ram doesn't quote any place except over here in Sefer Mitzvah, in the side as whole the Tmeim. He doesn't quote in Mishnah Torah, there's an Aseh on the Tomei to go out, but the mitzvah is on Acherim to send them out. So we have to understand whether this teretz is a teretz or not a teretz. Okay, so now next. Here comes something even more. This is an interesting thing. I'm not sure that I understand everything. Okay. Here, in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Bias HaMikdash, Halacha Ches and Tes, goes like this. Hatomei HaMeshulach Mehar HaBayis Im Nichnas Oive B'Lois Aseh Shneim V'Yotzer Mechutz LaMachne Ze Machne Shechina V'Lo Yovo Al Toich HaMachne Ze Machne Leviyah. Okay. So he says Oive B'Lois Aseh. Doesn't talk about Malchus yet. V'chein. Yes, well, it comes interesting. V'chein Mitzvah. V'chein Mitzvah shenichnas liYerushalayim loike. The Mitzvah comes into Yerushalayim, he gets Malchus. Nichnas HaMitzvah lahar habayis loike shmoinim. Okay. So the Ram says that a Mitzvah that goes into Har HaBayis gets twice Malchus. There's no source for this in the Talmud. The source for this is Tosefta, but the Tosefta is not very clear because there are many nuschos. The Ram quotes the Tosefta in Pirush Mishnayos and Kelim Perek Aleph Mishnah Ches. But the question is, how does he get Malchus Shmoinim? How can he get Malchus Shmoinim? The general rule in Rambam, and that he's formulated in Shosh Chi, Ribui Malchus is only for Ribui Lavim. And here, when it comes to Har HaBayis, there's only one Lav. When it comes to Azor, there's the second Lav. But the Mitzvah only went into Har HaBayis and he gets Shmonim. And it's only for the Lav of Sefer Devarim. Okay. And how do I know that in the Rambam, it's certainly only the Shmoinim is certainly talking only because of the second Lav, besides everything, besides the Lav of Kiseitze, because the Rambam reverses the order, and the Rambam only talks about after this, he first mentions the Lav of going into Machne Shechina. So he hasn't even mentioned the Lav yet. So he's talking about the Shmoinim. The Shmoinim is talking about the Lav of Machne Leviyah. And L'Bayda Sholem, we said that the Lav of Kiseitze is going on Har HaBayis. So how is the Mitzvah? Let's read it again. Atomei HaMeshulach. Yeah. V'chein Mitzvah shenichnas liYerushalayim by itself gets Malchus. Where does it get Malchus? There's a Lav of Machne Shechina and a Lav of Machne Leviyah. But there's no Lav on Yerushalayim. So l'cheira, what you have to say is that a mitzvah shenichtras lifnim b'chitzosai. There's also a lav. The lav is on a tamei shenichlas lifnim b'chitzosai. And the Rikukis there explains that every mechitza, I don't know if it's like Gufa Muchlokim, is Machayiv and Malchus. So if the Mitzvah comes in to Yerushalayim and then goes into Harabayis, it gets Malchus twice for the Mechitza of Yerushalayim and the Mechitza of Harabayis. And different Gvulais are like Gufa Muchlokim. I assume that's the way they're learning. There's amazing things. This is also just an aside, only for us. We have to ask ourselves a question. Let's say a Zav that goes into Harabayis and walks into the Azorah. Maybe she get 120. For each mechitza that he goes into, he gets 40. So one for the or maybe the lav of the second lav of Kiseitze is only for Harabayis and Yerushalayim. But he gets shmonim for going into Yerushalayim. How many does he get when he goes into the Azorah, the Zav? 80 or 120. It's really not our issue now, but it's something to think about. Okay, but say that. Next. Okay, next. Now there's a problem. Just one more problem, then I want to finish with this. I found it interesting, and it's a really fascinating issue. The Gemara learns that why does the Aseh of Yotz Michutz Lamachne going on the Azorah, because once it says to go in the Azorah and you have the pasuk afterwards saying again you should go out, so it learns like you made no Inyan, you don't need it, so there's a lav. So l'cheira, if you learn like that, there's no aseh of Yotz L'chutz L'machne. It's just Tadash and Meino Inyan, and really the lav is only a Machne Leviyah. But l'chera, you can't say Yotz L'chutz L'machne is an aseh, and you learn him Meino Inyan Tadash in it because you need it. You need it as an aseh. And anyway, Tadash that the lav is on Machne Leviyah. But the Rambam does that. And the Gemara in Psochim on Samach Chesam and Aleph says that we learn this is the Gemara Psochim, Mehot shenichtav Machne Pamayim. This says Machne twice in Sefer Dvorim, in Kiseitze. Shalav hu b'machne Leviyah. So you can't learn that it's an aseh, but the Rambam is mefurish in Minyan HaMitzvos. You have both drushes. In Loisas Ayin Ches, he quotes the Gemara Psochim. Amru v'yotz mechutz lamachne ze machne Shechina, k'mo shebi'alnu. B'lamed Aleph Mitzvas say. The Gemara's drasha is a Meino Inyan. So how do you do both? I don't catch it exactly. Okay, let's say that. Now, This is relatively easy. Okay. That mitzvah, the next mitzvah, is going to be very rough. Let's start it, and then I guess we'll pick up a little more next week. HaMitzvah ashtayim v'shloishim. He shetzivonu l'chabed zera Aharon, the progeny of Aaron HaKohen. L'chabed zera Aharon. It's a very strange lashon. The interesting thing is, the Ram, this idea of Zera Aaron, the Ram doesn't have any other place in Minyan HaMitzvos except for one place. In Lois it said Shin Samach Beis, when he's talking about Zaris Lagabi Melech, he also mentions Zaris Lagabi Kohen, and he says that Izar is that which is not Mizera Aaron HaKohen. To say that. What the significance of this, I have no clue. The Lashon here, L'chabed Zera Aaron, U'lenasom U'leimimim. U'leimimim, V'nosim Madrigosam Madrega Kodemes V'lishayin. Okay, good. This is Ibn Tibin. In Ibn Yoiv, L'chabed Zera Aaron, L'fa'alom U'legadlom. In Kapach, Legadel Zera Aharon, Ulechabdom, Uleimimam. I'm not sure, which one's keyboard, which one's this, but you have all of them. Okay, but say that. I don't know which is they. So this mitzvah, Vafilu, Yemanu Oisai, Nishma, V'zeh Kulo Hagdula Lekel Yisala. And then he says afterwards, V'amu Yisale, V'amroi, V'kidashtoi, Ki es lechem Elokecho hu makriv, Kodesh yeh locha. Now, so it's l'roimimam, l'nasom l'roimimam, v'nosim madrigosam, madrega kodemes v'rishoina. He's number one. So first, before you get started with number one, number two, and what's l'roimimam, l'gadlom, what does it mean v'kidashtoi? Are we, the kavanah is that we're making the kohen more kodesh? The kidashtai? On Yud Beis Amud Aleph, she'kol mekudesh mechaveroi koydem es chaveroi. And it's talking about, partially, certainly, the korbanos, which are more kodesh, are before korbanos which are less kodesh, in terms of Seid Akovis Akorban. And the Gemara says that this Seder, that Dover Kol Mekudesh Mechaveroi is Koydem Chaveroi. The amazing thing, we learn it out from the Kidashtoi. The Gemara says, Menolon, is koil is Mechol Mekudesh Mechaveo, who Koil Mechaveo Menolon, the Tana Rabbi Yishmael, the Kidashto Lechol Davar Shebekdusha, Leftoich Rishon, Levorich Rishon, Volito Mona Yofa Rishon. So the double portion, if you could apply this, the call HaKodesh Mechaveo, Koil Mechaveo, it's not to make it Kodesh, but it's to recognize the Kedusha by giving it Kedima. It's a recognition of Kedusha. It's not sanctification. So it's to recognize it. By the Chachomim, by Kibur Chachom, Kibur Horim, it's a different mitzvah. The mitzvah is to mechabe them, to by the Chachomim to stand, and by Rabbi and Horim, it's the Shamsham. In each the Rabo and whatever it is, and the Holim and whatever that is. But here the mitzvah is to be makabit to shatan, and to make davar shebekdusha, or call davar shebekdusha, toich rishon. But there's no mitzvah for kohen to mishamesh the kohen to stand up for the kohen. The mitzvah is that he should be first. And befrat, as the Ram says in the next line, he says, "Vafilu yimanu," he doesn't want it. He doesn't want the call. He doesn't want to be first. Lo nishma lahem. V'zeh kuloi hagdola lekel yisala. Yisala means that the kavod, the kedima is to God. Aseh שהוא lokcham ubacham la'avoidasam ulahakriv korbanosam. So zeh kuloi hagdola lekel yisala. So the mitzvah is not to give cover to the kohen himself, but by making the kohen rishon, you'll be making the kedusha which God gave him. It's the mechaber HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's no relationship at all between this and the mitzvah of kibud Talmud Chacham and kibud or the vihidu Talmud Chacham and kibud Horim, Rabbi, whatever. Okay, besed. However, there's one problem over here, which I'm very confused about. So I would have said the whole mitzvah starts and ends with making the kohen rishon. The added words here, the Rambam, the arichus, lenasam, uleroimamam, doesn't make any sense. Or in Ibn Eov, where he says, leforom or legadlom, lechabdom or leroimamam. You don't get the impression that it's to be makir the kedusha. It's doing something more. Demonstrating the kedusha, leforum, leroimam, legadlom. Doesn't understand what this means. So You don't find any other place to say this. In this Venosi Madriga, some Madriga Kedemis V'Rishoyna, that's Ibn Tibin, in Ibn Iyov, Ushlitel Lehem Ma'ilus HaHakdomo V'Hakovod, Ibn Iyov, V'Nachshivim B'Ma'ilus HaKedusha V'Hakovod, Kapach. So there's also covenant coming again. We don't understand this, to say the least. So vafilu yemanu, see here now also. Vafilu yemanu oisai. What's oisai? It means he won't. The oisai is referring to the covered. Vafilu yemanu oisai. He won't want the covered the nishma lahem. This oisai, it being the covered, we only find it in Ibn Iyov. Ibn Tibin. In Ibn Iyov, in Kapach, Ibn Iyov, it says, Vafilu lo yotzu. Doesn't talk, and there's no pronoun reference. And in Kapach, Vafilu yisavu b'kach. So that's clear, and we know who it is. But the chayr of the Aseh is very clear that the Aseh is referring to the covenant. Okay, next. So, and the Ram then continues and says, Nishma mayhem in Ibn Tibin doesn't make much sense. Lishma Lohem and Kapach reads a lot better. We should listen to them. Even if they don't want the covenant. V'zeh kula hagdola lokel yisala acheshu lokchom ubochom la'avoidasa u'akiv kovedosav. So what does it mean? That you maktim it is because since Hashem chose them for avodas hamikdash, therefore we are making this kedusha. So you understand yourself. Therefore, the Rambam says, "This is Agdoma." So maybe Balmum, you shouldn't have to be makeh because it's not him. He can't be oived. So the answer is the kedusha's kuna was for avodah. So even though he's not oived, he was part of the bechira. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll pick this up next week, B'li Neder.